Marvellous. Next we're on to the compost. So what we're going to put in the seed trays, the pots, and even the little tubes for moving seedlings on. So the first thing is the kind of compost you might... I've just broken everything. So this is a bag of bought compost, and it's quite fine. So that makes it suitable for seed sowing. This is peat-free, organic compost, and at the moment, if you're not able to get hold of this kind of stuff, the question often arises, should you be using garden soil? And the answer is no, not really. Because soil contains pathogens and weed seeds, and it's best to avoid it if you can. Oh dear, I've just got a stick out of that one. Shouldn't be that size, should it? Okay, so that's what we'll use for seed sowing, and in a moment we'll look at what you'll use for potting on your seedlings. If you've not got any yourself, where can you get it? At the moment it's not that easy. You might be able to make some of your own, but it's not the same as, say, getting material out of a compost heap. You definitely don't want to use that either, I'm afraid. It's too rich. Anyway, do what you can, see what you can find for your seed sowing. So that's one thing we'll look at in a moment. For potting on, you can actually use the same stuff, and it's called a multi-purpose, and it's supposed to do seed sowing and potting, which is, I think it's asking a bit much of it, and I think the compromise actually comes with the potting on, because it's got a certain amount of nutrients. You can't have too many nutrients for seed sowing because it suppresses the germination, but will there be enough nutrient in there for the growing on the plants? Well, okay, you can start them off in it and then perhaps start feeding a little bit earlier, but that's a multi-purpose, and that's probably what I'll be using most of the time. For you, another alternative for growing on your plants into bigger and bigger pots, and even actually growing the plants to cropping in containers, you can actually make your own there. I think that is a little bit easier, because you're less worried about the structure as much, and then there needs to be a good amount of fertility. So the first thing I've got here is not terribly well composted material, and I'm just going to bring some more up there. So what I've got here is actually leaf mould, and like I say, it's not old enough. It's full of twigs, and we need to try and break it up as much as possible. It should have already done this for you. If it's a year old, it should be nice and crumbly and dark. Well, this isn't, and it's there's still quite large pieces in there. And the interesting thing about leaf mould is that it has a fantastic structure. It's got lots of something called lignin in, and it's wonderful for improving the soil. As you can see, I'm not getting a huge amount coming through here. The downside, possibly the downside, depending on your point of view, is that it doesn't have very much in the way of nutrient. And so if you can get hold of well broken down leaf mould, maybe use that for seed sowing. That might be just what you're after. Okay, for potting on, I'm using the leaf mould, and I'm going to add to it something else which has the nutrients. It's a bit stronger. I'm still not getting very far. Oh, there's a bit come through, look at that. That'll do. Okay, that's not bad. And so to that I'm going to mix this another substance I've got right next to me here, which is from a wormery, and it's not been terribly well made, I'm afraid. It's quite claggy. This was right at the bottom, and clearly there's some issue with the drainage out of the wormery, and you can see it's quite sticky and lumpy. So it's going to take a little bit of working to get this right, but it will be about no more than half leaf mould, sorry, no more than half wormery compost to leaf mould, preferably more leaf mould. You don't need it necessarily that strong. And I'm really disappointed because one advantage of wormery compost is that it is a really fine, beautiful product. There's a bit here which isn't too bad, so let's mix that in. That'll do. That's no more than half. What else have we got there? Oh yes, the obligatory plastic. Okay, we can just mix that in. The original potting composts, which were not made from soil, were made from peat, and they had sand added to them to add drainage, and that's great. And you could have added some sand to this as well. It probably would have benefited from it, but actually I'm all right because the coarseness of the leaf mould and the wormery compost, more plastic, I think there'll be good drainage enough in there for short-term use, definitely. Great. Okay, so there's our composts. We're going to use one or the other in the seed sowing, which we show you any minute now. Thank you.